Keanu sat at the back of the acting class. He didn't speak much. He didn't laugh or make jokes like the others. He just watched, listened, and tried to learn. When it was his turn to perform, he stood up slowly. His hands were a little shaky. He looked down at his script, took a deep breath, and began to read his lines. His voice was soft. His pauses were long. His face didn't show much emotion. The teacher looked confused. Some students started to smile. One of them whispered loudly, "He talks like a robot." Another said, "Is he even acting?" Then someone laughed out. Loud. Soon, many in the class were laughing. They weren't laughing with him, they were laughing at him. Keanu didn't say anything. He just stood there, still trying to finish his part. The teacher stopped him halfway. "That's enough," she said. "You need to work on energy. Right now you're very flat." Keanu nodded. He didn't argue. He just sat back down, quietly. After class, some of the students walked past him, still laughing. "He'll never make it," one of them said. "Maybe he should try something easier, like working at a store." Keanu heard every word. But he didn't cry. He didn't get angry. He just picked up his backpack and walked out. Outside, the sky was turning orange as the sun went down. The streets were loud with cars and people. Keanu walked alone, hands in his pockets. He passed by bright posters of movies, big actors smiling, names in shining letters. He stopped to look at one. Then, he whispered the lines from the movie. Poster, trying to say them with feeling, trying to sound like a real actor. At home, his apartment was small and quiet. He didn't have a lot, just a mattress, a few books, and some instant noodles. He sat on the floor and opened a notebook. It was full of notes, how to show emotion, how to stand, how to use your eyes. He wrote more notes. Slow down. Feel. The words. Try again. Every night, he practiced in front of a cracked mirror. He spoke to his reflection. He acted out scenes from movies. He wasn't great, but he was getting better, little by little. Sometimes, he remembered his teacher's voice. Not everyone is meant for the stage. It hurt. But another voice inside him said, maybe not yet. But one day, that small voice kept him going. He didn't have famous parents. He didn't have big money. He didn't have natural talent like some of the others in class. But he had heart. He had discipline. He didn't give up. And that was something even better than talent. One weekend, there was a small open call for a student film, no pay, just experience. Keanu went. He waited in line for hours. When it was finally his turn, the man behind the camera asked, "Name?" Keanu answered softly, "Keanu Reeves." The man didn't react. Just said, "Go ahead." Keanu performed a short scene. This time, he tried to forget the people laughing. He focused on the story. He imagined himself inside it. He didn't think about his voice or his face. He just let the moment happen. Afterward, the man nodded. "Thank you," he said. Nothing more. Keanu left, not knowing if he did well or badly. But he felt different. He had tried. Really tried. And he didn't feel ashamed. Back in class the next week, the laughter continued. But something had changed in Keanu. He no longer looked down. He no longer cared what they said. He had found a small light inside himself, and no one could take that away. The others still laughed. They still joked. But Keanu just smiled and kept learning. They didn't know it yet. But one day, the boy they laughed at in acting class would become something more, much more. Keanu kept going to auditions. Day after day, week after week. He carried his photo and resume in a small folder. He walked into rooms full of people who didn't know his name and didn't care about his dream. Most of the time, they barely looked at him. They just said, "Next," before he even finished a sentence. He heard the same words again and again. Too quiet, too stiff, not the right look. Sometimes they didn't say anything at all. They just shook their heads and moved on. Keanu would thank them, walk out with a calm face, and then sit alone on the sidewalk outside, holding his folder. His friends from acting class were doing better. One got a role in a TV commercial. Another started working in a small theater. They laughed louder now, wore better clothes. One of them even drove a new car. Keanu still walked or took the bus. He didn't complain, but deep inside he felt the pain. He worked part-time at a garage, helping fix cars. It wasn't easy. Grease on his hands, sweat on his back. He'd come home tired, but he still practiced lines in front of his small mirror. He still believed something would change. One night, he saw his old classmate on TV. The same guy who used to call him Robot Boy was now smiling in a sitcom. Cracking jokes, the studio audience laughed and clapped. Keanu sat on the floor, watching. His eyes didn't blink. His face didn't change, but his heart hurt. Still, he didn't give up. He went to small auditions, indie films, student projects, even unpaid short videos. He didn't care about money. He just wanted to act. He just wanted to learn. But most of those projects went nowhere. Some never even finished filming. He ate cheap food, mostly noodles and eggs. He wore the same shirts again and again. He didn't party. He didn't hang out. Every extra dollar went into acting books, bus rides to auditions, or food for the week. Sometimes he sat at the back of theaters, watching plays he couldn't afford. He took notes in a little notebook. The eyes, he wrote once. Act with the eyes, not just words. Another time he wrote, truth matters more than loudness. He learned from everywhere. One winter evening, he auditioned for a small sci-fi movie. The room was cold. The man behind the table looked bored. Show us something emotional, the man said. Keanu thought for a moment. Then without warning, tears filled his eyes. He spoke about losing someone, about regret, about love and time. He didn't fake it. He felt it. His voice cracked. His hands shook. The man stared. Then he asked, "Where did you train?" Keanu replied, "Nowhere. Just life." The man didn't smile, but he wrote something on the paper in front of him. Later that week, Keanu got a call. His first real role. Not a big one, but it was something. A small movie, small budget. But to Keanu, it was everything. He was nervous. He studied the script like it was a holy book. He arrived early every day. He didn't joke or mess around. He listened, watched, learned. After the movie, the director said quietly, "You've got something different." Keanu nodded. "Thank you." But just when things were starting to look up, life hit him hard. His best friend, the one who believed in him when no one else did, died suddenly. Keanu was crushed. They used to dream together, laugh about the future. Now he was gone. Then, years later, more heartbreak came. His baby girl, born too early, didn't survive. Soon after that, the woman he loved, the baby's mother, died in a car crash. Most people would have broken. Most would have disappeared from the world. But Keanu didn't. He mourned in silence. He didn't talk much. He kept to himself, but he kept acting. He used his pain, quietly, deeply, not for fame, not for money, just for honesty, for truth. Directors started to notice. "There's something in his eyes," one said. "Something real." Keanu didn't need to shout. He didn't need to show off. He just was. While others chased fame, Keanu walked a different path. A harder one, a lonelier one, but it was his. And slowly, that path began to shine. Keanu finally got a break. It wasn't a big role, but it was in a real movie. He was nervous but serious. He showed up on time, remembered all his lines, and treated everyone with respect, from the director to the man holding the boom mic. The crew liked him. He never acted like a star. He helped carry lights, clean up the set, and even shared food with the extras. After the movie came out, people started to notice him. He didn't become a star overnight, but casting agents started to remember his name. Slowly, more roles came in. He got to be the funny best friend in one film, a shy musician in another. Each time he gave it his all. He wasn't trying to become famous, he just wanted to do the job well. Then, a studio offered him a bigger role. It was an action film. Fast cars, explosions, running, fighting. Not the kind of film people expected him to do. Some said he didn't have the face for action. Others said he wasn't tough enough. But Keanu trained hard. He took martial arts lessons, worked out every day, and learned how to do stunts himself. When the movie came out, it surprised everyone. The audience loved it. They loved him. He wasn't loud or flashy like other action stars. He was calm, strong, and serious. He made people believe. Suddenly, Keanu Reeves was no longer just a name, he was a star. But even as his fame grew, life tested him in painful ways. His girlfriend gave birth to their baby girl. But the baby was stillborn. She didn't make it. Keanu didn't know how to handle the loss. He held the small, lifeless body in his arms, feeling helpless. Just weeks later, his relationship with the baby's mother fell apart. They were both in pain. Too much pain. Then, one day, she died in a car crash. All of this happened when Keanu's career was rising. Everyone else saw the movie posters, the awards, the red carpet photos. But behind all that, Keanu was broken. He didn't party. He didn't date. He didn't smile in interviews. He just worked quietly. People started to call him cold or strange because he didn't act like other stars. He didn't care about fame. He didn't buy a big mansion or expensive clothes. He still rode the subway. He gave most of his money to the crew who worked with him. The truth was, Keanu had learned something most people never understand: life is short. And pain can come any time. So he lived simply, kindly, quietly. He started choosing roles that mattered to him. Stories about honor, sacrifice, and love. His pain helped him bring real emotion to his roles. When he cried on screen, the audience believed him because the tears were real. They came from somewhere deep. One director said, "When Keanu looks into the camera, you see something no acting school can teach. You see real sorrow and real strength." Over time, people began to see that Keanu was different, but in a good way. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He didn't act like a god. He just worked hard and treated people right. Reporters tried to dig into his life, looking for scandals. But there were none. Just stories of quiet kindness. He gave away millions of dollars. He helped crew members pay for medical bills. He bought food for strangers. But he never told the press. Others told the stories for him. One time, a fan saw Keanu sitting alone on a bench, sharing his sandwich with a homeless man. No cameras, no manager. Just Keanu being Keanu. Another time, he spent 20 minutes helping a woman carry her bags across a parking lot because her car broke down. People started calling him the internet's favorite human. But for Keanu, none of this mattered. He still remembered the boy who sat quietly in acting class. He still remembered the laughter, the rejections, the empty fridge, the long walks home. Now he was famous. But he never changed, because all the pain, all the loss, all the lonely nights they had shaped him. He didn't act for awards. He didn't smile for cameras. He didn't live for attention. He just kept going. Quiet, humble. Keanu's single quotes S name was now known around the world. People watched his movies. Fans shouted his name. Photographers followed him everywhere. But even when he became famous, Keanu didn't live like other stars. He didn't show off. He didn't act like a king. He still walked to places. He still rode the subway like a normal man. Some fans didn't even believe it was him sitting there, quiet, simple, peaceful. He didn't buy a big house with 10 rooms or flashy sports cars. He didn't throw wild parties. He used his money to help others, camera crew, stunt workers, and even strangers he never met before. One time, he gave millions of dollars from his movie earnings to the behind-the-scenes team. He said they deserved it just as much as him. Even though he was a big star, he never saw himself as better than anyone. When people tried to treat him like a celebrity, he would just smile and say, "I'm just an actor." Many of his classmates from acting school were shocked. They remembered laughing at him. They remembered thinking he would fail. Now they watched him on magazine covers and giant billboards. Some of them felt ashamed. A few even tried to message him or reach out on social media, acting like they were old friends. Keanu never said anything rude to them. He didn't remind them of how they used to mock him. He simply replied with kindness and moved on. He had no time for revenge. He had work to do. He had stories to tell. He picked roles carefully. Not every big-budget film excited him. He wanted roles that had meaning, stories where the character felt real. He was not afraid to turn down big paychecks if the role didn't feel honest. When a new movie script came to him, about a man who enters a strange computer world and becomes a hero, most people thought it sounded weird. The film was The Matrix. Many actors said no to it, but Keanu saw something in it. He believed in the story. He trained for months, learning martial arts, doing his own stunts, and diving deep into the character's mind. When the movie came out, it changed everything. People loved it. They loved him. Suddenly, Keanu Reeves was not just a star, he was a legend. But even with all the praise, Keanu didn't let it get to his head. He treated the janitor and the director the same way, with respect. He would often be seen sitting with the stuntmen, eating lunch with them, laughing, asking about their lives. For Keanu, no one was too small. The media didn't know how to handle someone like him. He didn't fit the usual mold of a Hollywood star. They tried to find drama in his life, but there wasn't much. He was quiet. He kept to himself. But those who worked with him had stories. One crew member said, "I've worked on over 30 movies. No one is as generous and kind as Keanu." Another said, "He gave up his private trailer just so extras could have a warm place to rest." Fans began calling him the nicest guy in Hollywood. And he didn't even know it. He didn't read articles about himself. He didn't Google his own name. He just lived. Keanu's movies kept doing well. Directors loved working with him. He didn't complain. He didn't demand special treatment. He worked hard, did his job, and treated everyone kindly. But not everything was perfect. Sometimes he still felt the pain of the past, the loss of his daughter, the death of his partner, the silence that followed him home after long days on set. But he had learned how to live with it. He didn't hide from it. He let that pain shape him, but not control him. He once said in an interview, "Grief never ends. It changes shape, but it stays with you." Those words touched many hearts. Keanu's honesty made people love him even more. He wasn't fake. He wasn't trying to impress. He was just real. One day, while walking into a movie premiere, fans were screaming and pushing to get close. But Keanu noticed a boy in a wheelchair at the back. Without a word, he stopped everything and walked over to the boy. He knelt, smiled, and spent a few minutes talking to him while cameras flashed. He didn't care about the press. He cared about that boy. Stories like these kept coming out. Quiet moments, acts of kindness, not for show, not for attention, just because that's who Keanu was. People who used to laugh at him now told others they once knew him. They tried to connect themselves to his name, but Keanu didn't care. He didn't live in the past. He had become a star on his own terms, not because he wanted fame, but because he stayed true to himself. Many years had passed since Keanu sat quietly in that acting class, the one where others laughed at him. Now he was a Hollywood star. People all over the world knew his name. They watched his movies, admired his kindness, and called him humble. But Keanu had not forgotten where he started. He still remembered every joke, every word that made him feel small back then. Not because he was angry, but because those moments helped him become who he was. One day, Keanu was offered something new, something big. A chance to direct his own movie. It was a martial arts film. A story full of heart, honor, and quiet strength. The kind of story that matched Keanu's soul. For the first time, he wouldn't just act, he would be in charge. He would choose. The actors, the story, the vision. It was a big job. But he was ready. He worked day and night on the script. He wanted every line to feel real, every fight to have purpose, every scene to show emotion, not just action. Then came the casting process. Hundreds of actors came to audition. Keanu watched quietly from behind the camera, studying each one. He wasn't looking for perfect faces or big names. He was looking for truth, for someone who could bring real feeling to the role. One morning, his assistant brought in a stack of audition forms. Keanu flipped through the papers, then suddenly stopped. His eyes landed on a name. It was familiar. Then another, and another, 3 names from his old acting class. The same people who had laughed at him, pointed fingers, and whispered behind his back. Now years later, they were coming to audition for him, without even knowing it. Keanu didn't smile. He didn't feel angry. He just sat quietly for a moment, remembering how it felt back then to be laughed at. He didn't remove their names from the list. He didn't block them. Instead, he told his assistant to call them in. The day of the audition, they walked into the room, one by one. All 3 were older now. One had graying hair. Another looked nervous. None of them recognized the man behind the table. Right away. Then Keanu stepped out from behind the camera. Their eyes went wide. There he was, the quiet boy from the back row, now a star, now a director. Keanu greeted them with a small nod. "Good to see you," he said calmly. One of them tried to laugh it off. "Wow, Keanu, you've really done well for yourself." Keanu just smiled a little and said, "Let's begin." He didn't bring up the past. He didn't say anything about the way they treated him. He didn't need to. The silence in the room already said enough. They auditioned, trying hard to impress him. They gave strong performances. They wanted the role. They wanted his respect. Keanu watched them carefully, like he watched every other actor. When the auditions ended, he sat alone in the casting room. He didn't feel pride. He didn't feel revenge. He just felt peace. They had laughed at him before, but now they were in his audition room, hoping to be chosen. The world had changed. He had changed, but he hadn't become bitter. He had become better. In the end, Keanu picked one of them for a small role, not out of pity, not to prove anything, but because they fit the part. He treated them the same as everyone else on set. With respect, with kindness, with quiet leadership. That actor kept watching Keanu during the shoot. Watching how he worked, how he treated everyone from the lead stars to the interns. One day, that actor came up to Keanu and said, "I was wrong about you back then, and I'm sorry." Keanu looked at him for a moment, then he nodded. We're young," he said softly. "We all grow. No anger, no pride. Just truth." The movie was released a year later. Critics praised it. Fans loved it. But more than anything, people respected the heart behind the film. It wasn't just a movie about fighting. It was about rising above pain, about holding on to honor, even when others don't believe in you. Keanu had directed his first film, but more than that, he had closed a chapter of his life with grace. He didn't need revenge. He didn't need to prove anything. He had already won, because he never lost who he was. The day of the final auditions arrived. The actors, including the 3 former classmates from Keanu's acting school, stood Outside the casting room, they looked nervous. They didn't know who the director was yet. They only knew the project was big and important. Inside, Keanu sat calmly behind the casting table. He wore a black shirt, hair tied back, his eyes focused. He looked through the list of names again. He had seen hundreds of actors over the past few weeks. But these 3 names, the ones from his past, stayed in his mind. Not because he wanted to punish them, but because life had a strange way of coming full circle. When the first classmate walked in, she smiled, looking confident. She looked around, expecting someone she knew. Then she froze. Her eyes met Keanu's. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she forced a smile. "Keanu, is that really you?" Keanu gave a small nod. "Yes," he said softly. "I'm the director." The woman laughed nervously. "Wow, I didn't know. This is amazing. It's been so long." Keanu stood up and shook her hand. "Good to see you again," he said. His voice was calm. No anger, no sarcasm. She sat down still, trying to process it. The same quiet boy they used to laugh at was now the one with the power to choose. They began the audition. She read her lines with energy. She tried her best. She looked up at Keanu often, trying to guess his reaction. But his face was unreadable. He listened carefully, but he didn't show any emotion. When she finished, he simply nodded and said, "Thank you." Next came the second classmate, a man who once called Keanu wooden and lifeless. He had gained weight and looked older, tired. He walked in with a wide smile, but his steps slowed when he saw who was sitting behind the table. "Keanu Reeves," he said in surprise. "This is unexpected." Keanu stood again and shook his hand. "Let's begin when you're ready." The man hesitated, but then pulled out his script and started acting. He stumbled at first, then picked up speed. He tried to impress. He tried to act like the past didn't exist. But Keanu remembered everything. Still, he watched with full attention. The third classmate, a woman who once told him to quit acting, walked in last. She didn't say much. Her eyes dropped the moment she saw Keanu. She seemed unsure. She knew what she had done back then, the mocking, the cruel jokes. And now she was standing in front of the same man hoping for a chance. Keanu treated her like the others. He didn't bring up the past. He didn't ask her questions. He let her perform. She gave a decent audition. Not perfect, but strong enough. After she finished, she paused. Then she spoke softly. "Keanu, I just want to say I'm sorry for how we treated you back then." Keanu looked at her for a moment. The room was silent. Then he replied, "Thank you." That was all. Later that day, Keanu sat alone in the quiet casting room. He had all the notes in front of him. He reviewed every audition, every line, every emotion. He didn't let the past control his decision. He judged everyone by their performance, not by old memories. That's who he was now. In the end, he gave one of them a small role. Not because he wanted revenge. Not because he wanted to make them feel small, but because the person fit the part. That was it. When filming began, Keanu worked harder than anyone. He arrived early, stayed late, helped the crew, supported the actors. Even the smallest roles mattered to him. He treated every person on set like family. The classmate who got the part watched him closely. She saw how the team respected him, not because he was famous, but because he was kind. She saw how the extras smiled when he talked to them. How the makeup artist said, "Keanu brings peace to the set." One evening, while packing up after a long day of shooting, she walked over to him. "Can I say something?" she asked. He nodded. "You didn't have to give me this role, after everything. After how I treated you back then." Keanu looked at her with calm eyes. "We were young," he said. "People grow. And everyone deserves a chance to change." She didn't know what to say. Her eyes filled with tears. Not because she got the role, but because she finally saw the kind of person he had become. Strong, but gentle. Forgiving, not bitter. As she walked away, she knew something for sure. Keanu Reeves wasn't just a great actor. He was a great human being. And in that quiet audition room, he had proven something stronger than talent. He had proven grace. The filming continued day by day, and Keanu gave everything he had. He wasn't just the director, he was also a teacher, a friend, and a quiet guide for everyone on set. He didn't yell, he didn't act like a boss. He treated everyone with respect, no matter if they were a big actor or just part of the background crew. People felt safe around him. They felt seen. They felt respected. The classmate who got the role watched Keanu closely. She had never expected him to change so much, or maybe he hadn't changed. Maybe he had always been this way, and she was only now seeing it clearly. She remembered the old acting class, the way they laughed at him, how they called him strange. She remembered joining in the jokes, thinking it was harmless. Now, every time she saw him lift heavy equipment with the crew, or sit with a tired stuntman to check if he was okay, her heart felt heavy. Keanu never brought up the past. He never threw her mistakes back in her face. He simply led by example. He showed her who he really was through his actions. One afternoon, the team had a tough shoot. The weather was hot, everyone was tired, and one of the key scenes wasn't working well. The actors were frustrated. The cameras kept needing adjustment. People started getting annoyed and stressed. But Keanu stayed calm. He walked over to the crew. He smiled gently. "Let's take 5, he said. "Get some water, breathe." Then, he sat with the lead actor and slowly talked through the scene, line by line. Not to command, just to help. His calm voice changed the energy. Soon, everyone relaxed. The scene was filmed again, and this time, it worked perfectly. That evening, the classmate approached him again. She had been thinking about something all day. She stood beside him while he checked the next day's schedule. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. He looked up and nodded. "Sure. Back then, when we laughed at you in acting class, did it hurt?" Keanu didn't answer right away. He looked into the distance, quiet for a few seconds. Then he said softly, "Yes, it did." She lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." He turned to face her fully. "Thank you, that means a lot." She hesitated, then asked, "Why didn't you ever bring it up? You had the power now. You could have made us feel small. But you didn't." Keanu gave a small smile. "Because I remember what it felt like to be made small. I wouldn't want anyone else to feel that way. Not even the ones who hurt me." Her eyes welled with tears. "You're better than I ever was." "No," he replied kindly. "We all grow at different times. What matters is who we choose to be now." Word of his kindness began to spread through the crew. One day, a lighting technician found his broken bike fixed and waiting for him, with a note that simply said, "Thanks for your hard work, KR." Another day, Keanu carried lunch trays for the background extras because the line was long. Little things, quiet things. But everyone noticed. Even the producers began to talk. "He's not just a great actor," one said. "He's the kind of person this industry needs more of." By the end of the filming, many people on set felt changed, inspired, not because Keanu gave speeches or tried to act like a hero, but because of how he lived. He showed that success didn't have to come with ego, that fame didn't have to bring pride. On the final day of shooting, the cast and crew gathered for a wrap-up party. There were drinks, food, laughter, and music. People shared stories and memories. When it was Keanu's turn to speak, he stood up with his usual calm face and quiet voice. "I just want to say thank you," he began. "To all of you for trusting me, for giving your heart to this film. When I was younger, I never thought I'd stand in a room like this, with people who care so much. I'm grateful." There was a long applause. Some people even had tears in their eyes. After the party, the classmate stood alone for a moment, watching Keanu speak to the janitor like an old friend. She smiled to herself and whispered, "I didn't understand him before, but now I do." Keanu walked out of the building that night, under a sky full of stars. He had just finished his first film as a director. He had helped people. He had told a story that mattered, but most of all, without ever saying it out loud, he had shown the world something powerful. Kindness always wins, and grace quiet. Steady grace can turn even old pain into something beautiful. The film was finally finished. When it came out in theaters, people filled the seats to watch Keanu's work. Audiences were excited to see how he would be as a director. They expected action, drama, and maybe something new. But what they saw was a movie full of heart. It was not just about fighting or winning. It was about growing, forgiving, and showing respect, even to those who once laughed at you. People everywhere loved it. Critics wrote reviews calling it deep, powerful, and unlike anything else in the genre. Some said it was Keanu's best work, yet not just as an actor, but as a storyteller. Fans started writing online about the feeling they got from watching the film. They said it made them think about their own lives, about the people they once hurt, or the chances they never gave others. The film's success wasn't just about money or fame. Something different was happening. The cast and crew felt it too. Many of them said it was the best set they had ever worked on. Some had come in just to do their jobs, but they left feeling changed. They had learned from Keanu about hard work, about caring for others, and about staying true to yourself. The classmate who got the small role in the film watched the premiere from the back of the theater. She remembered the shy, quiet boy in acting class. She remembered how easy it was to laugh at someone who seemed different. Now sitting in a dark cinema with 100 strangers, she felt a deep sense of respect. Keanu had not only forgiven her, he had shown her a better way to be. After the film, there was a party. Reporters, actors, producers, and fans crowded around Keanu, wanting to shake his hand and take pictures. But he didn't stay in the spotlight for long. He found the people who worked behind the scenes, the lighting team, the cooks, the drivers, and thanked them one by one. He listened to their stories, laughed at their jokes, and made sure they felt important. That night, when the party was over, Keanu walked home alone. The city was quiet. The stars shone above. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. He thought about his old acting class, about the long nights spent practicing in front of a mirror, about all the rejection and the pain. But most of all, he thought about kindness. He believed that real success was not about being rich or famous. It was about how you treated people. It was about lifting others up, not pushing them down. The world saw him as a star, but Keanu saw himself as a student of life, a person always trying to be better, to learn, and to forgive. In the weeks that followed, people kept talking about the film. Other directors called Keanu for advice. Actors wanted to work with him. Young people wrote him letters saying the movie gave them hope. Some said they had changed their own lives after seeing his story. Some even tried to fix old friendships or say sorry to people they had hurt. Keanu's former classmates, even those who didn't get the roles, sent him messages. They thanked him for the chance, and some even apologized for the past. Keanu replied to every message. He forgave them all and wished them good luck. Reporters tried to find a big headline, looking for anger or revenge in his story, but there was none. There was only growth, honesty, and peace. When asked about the classmates who once laughed at him, Keanu simply said, "Everyone has a story. We all make mistakes. What matters is who we become." The world respected him more than ever, not just for his films, but for his character. His story was shared online, in magazines, in classrooms. People told it as a lesson, not to bully, not to judge, but to support each other. Keanu went back to living simply. He gave away most of his money to charities and people in need. He continued to act in films he believed in and to direct stories that inspired hope. He still rode the subway, still greeted people with a smile, and still whispered lines from his favorite plays under his breath. He stayed the same humble person, no matter how many people praised him. He believed that a good life wasn't about being remembered by everyone, but about making a real difference in the lives of a few. The classmate who once laughed at him would later say, "Keanu taught me that you never really know someone's heart until you see how they treat others, especially when they don't have to." In the end, Keanu's greatest victory wasn't becoming famous, or making a great movie, or being loved by millions. His real victory was becoming the kind of person he always wanted to be: strong, kind, forgiving, and true to himself. His story reminds everyone, no matter how people treat you, or how many times you are laughed at, you can still choose kindness. You can still become a light for others. And that is the mark of a real hero.